I'm very happy to be here in a congregation led by my old friend. He was a student, yes, but we've been friends for a long time, Madison Shockley. He didn't mention that we serve together on the board of directors of Progressive Christians Uniting. Are you still on the board?
No.
Nor am I. But I think they bumped us up to the board of advisors. I think that's the case. But it's certainly a joy for my wife and I to be here today and to join in worship with you. I'd like to share some ideas with you. This might be a bit of a trip, so you might want to buckle your seatbelt, because we're going to think for a little bit about what it would really mean if we all truly believed that there was but one God of everybody, which is what the early church believed. Paul makes it clear in his various letters to the early churches, and especially in his letter to the church at Rome, that belief in God, and God is the God of all, as the core of Christianity. Jesus taught in many ways that the very basis of biblical faith is belief in one God, even to the point, he said in Matthew and in Luke, that we should love our enemies. Why? Because their God is our God also. It's a theological sequence. Deuteronomy and the prophets lay it out clearly that there's one God. Job was chiding his erstwhile friends. No human concept of God can even remotely define God. You can't put God in the dictionary. In fact, the Bible is essentially the launching pad for the process of learning to believe. Over a 1,000-year period of its formation, of learning to believe there's but one God of all. And the process is far from complete, even and especially today. Christians, Jews, and Muslims have still not finished the task. The Bible launched it 2,000 years ago, and a lot of people just want to freeze it there. No. It launched a process that we should continue, and we don't do it very well. In many ways, we show our belief in polytheism. Alex Trebek recently chided a contestant on Jeopardy who said she thanked God she had beat opponents in some recent contest she'd been in. Alex immediately responded that she had thanked God that the others had lost. Poor woman was baffled because she didn't mean that. Such a remark is usually intended to affect humility and deflect credit from oneself. But listen to what we say. What she was actually saying was that her God had bested the God of her opponent. We do this all the time. I recently worshiped at the UCC church in Claremont. It's a big one. To open the service, the beautiful children in the youth choir sang a very popular Jewish song, "Our God is Great," instead of "God is Great." And that's what Muslims actually do when they say Allah Akbar. God is great. That's all they're saying. We associate it with jihad, or we associate it with terrorism, but you have no idea how much terrorism they associate Christianity with. An American general in Iraq recently, in 2008, went on television to denounce the God of Islam as evil and praise the God of Christianity as the true God. That's polytheism. By contrast, Queen Abdullah of Saudi Arabia made, about the same time, call for an ecumenical conference of the three monotheistic religions because, as he rightly said, we all believe in the same God. And which of these do we think showed belief in one God of all? The evangelical American general or the Muslim potentate? We have a lot to learn. The one doctrine that held all branches of early Christianity together was monotheism. Whether it was Pauline, Petrine, Jacobean, Johannine, whatever, they all believed in one God of all. That's what united them. The one thing probably that united them. Those that did not, like the Gnostics, did not survive, and they left no heirs. Now, we hear of Christian Gnostics because of archaeology, and they dig up documents and holes in the ground. They weren't preserved by the churches. Polytheism cannot seriously cope with or survive real oppression or suffering. It is the principal reason that we Christians have a double testament Bible. Church Father Marcion wanted to throw out the First Testament by the end of the 2nd century. He found much of it passé and uncouth, as we all do. You just open your Bible somewhere in the first part and put your finger down, it's going to say something that is we don't like. You almost should be sure of that. But the churches rejected Marcion's idea of rejecting the Old Testament, the First Testament. They could not agree with him because they knew that the major mark that united all Christianity was a belief in one God of all, and that would be entirely lost without the First Testament, even with all its otherwise troublesome passages, which, as I say, some people want to freeze where they are and say that's what we believe. No, it's a launching pad. We have to continue what it started in our time, in our situation, with our problems and our habits. These three religions believe in one God, but none acts like it. None comes through with the consequence of what it should mean. It's not enough simply to affirm belief. It's very important to work out what it means. None of us has done it right. Each of us believes in one God, and each actually professes henotheism. Do you ever heard that word? Henotheism. It means each religion has a God, one God. So you have God for this religion and a God for that religion. That's not monotheism. That's henotheism. It's a new word you might bandy about and argue about. It's not enough to simply affirm belief. We have to work it out. But you know, we say, well, I do believe in one God. But what we have in mind is our idea of God that we think Christ trapped in the incarnation. We do. And the Jews think it's the Mosaic God of Torah, and the Muslims think it's the God of the Quran. No, that won't do. What we've got to do is get beyond all that. We've got to try to find out what it means and get beyond the idea of a Christian God. What we can talk about is our concept of God. But you see, God is actually beyond our ability to understand. God is incomprehensible. He's not subject to science or history or dictionaries. God is beyond us all, creator of us all. It's not up to us to approve of God. It is God who approves of us. And even so far as to come and live our lives in pain and suffering because he loves us so much. And that's the amazing thing. That's the amazing grace. But it is grace, pure and simple. God is beyond human reason and imagination. You know what we do? We use metaphors to think about God. And then we get God trapped up in those metaphors. We use human metaphors. Like the family metaphor. It's a beautiful metaphor. And so we say God the Father. I notice in your prayer you have God Mother and Father. That's an advance. But God is both and neither. God is God. And that's about as far as you can go. If you add a predicate to that, you're limiting God to our puny little concept.